Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Not Content Podcast here. My name is Jerome Cusson, and as is tradition, we are going to be discussing our top 10 movies of the year. My guest, as always, for this episode is Ben Phillips. He comes to us again from the UK. And Ben, I know that we have watched a lot of movies in the year 2025, both new movies and old. And we have accumulated a lot of letterbox ticks, so to speak. And I'm very excited to once again reveal and share our top 10 lists for the year.
I think I looked at it yesterday when Letterboxd does their you need to get your logs in by this date to be counted for the for their Wrapped, their equivalent of their corporate. Everyone gets involved in the social media craze and shares their stats. I think I got to 470 diary entries last year, which is roughly 9 movies a week, which to some people is going to be a sickening amount of movies. I assume you're going to be similar level to that obsession.
I mean, I did 365, so I basically averaged a movie a day.
So I did a little bit more than you, a tad
Yes,
bit.
a tad bit more. Somehow you watched 95 more movies than I did, which is pretty amazing given that we both have full-time jobs.
Yeah, yeah. My job is tangentially related to movies, though.
Okay, I mean, that certainly helps. All right. So before we get into our top 10, one of the things that I really don't want to do is focus too much on box office because I feel like that discourse just gets played out over and over again. So I don't want to focus on it too much. We probably will inevitably cover it. But one of the things that I wanted to do was to just reflect on the fact that 2025, in terms of like the people that we lost, I mean, we can't cover everybody, but there are four prominent names that I wanted to mention and just kind of have a brief discussion on their impact and their meaning. I mean, in 2025, we lost Robert Redford, Gene Hackman, Diane Keaton, and Rob Reiner. I don't necessarily want to get into the circumstances of the Reiner family and Gene Hackman's death. That's not what this podcast is for. But I mean, the impact of those four people, I mean, it truly feels like if you're looking for some sort of a symbolic ending of something ending, like it doesn't get any more explicit than losing probably four of our more impactful artists of the last half century, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a name on that as well because I ended my 2025 with a double bill of the one that everyone is talking about is we did Mulholland Drive and When Harry Met Sally, and obviously David Lynch is in no way comparable to the kind of actor director crossover sense of the four people that you mentioned, but I do feel in
Right.
terms of at the very top of the year losing David Lynch in tangentially related to the LA wildfires that happened did feel kind of, I know it did set a tone for the year in a weird way. But the four names that you mentioned are all obviously kind of like multi-talented people who were just massive populist hit makers of the kind of 70s, 80s, 90s. Um, Most of them had kind of throttled back, I would say, in kind of the last 10 to 15 years. Like Rob Reiner was still, I mean, made a movie in 2025, was still acting in many, many projects, including The Bear season 4. But Redford was retired, Hackman was retired, Keaton was, I mean, The Book Club 2 was her last feature.
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding. I mean, there's been a lot not said about her circumstances of even her death. So I think just kind of want to leave that alone. But I mean, she was in one of the seasons of The Young Pope as a nun, so she was still pretty active until recently.
But yeah, it is this kind of sea change of a lot of people who are instrumental in terms of the modern conception of filmmaking. We are starting to lose. Like this is different to the 2016 spate of deaths, which were more music focused, I would say. But you lost people like Alan Rickman and were kind of more shocking. Whereas this feels like this we've now hit the genuine era of we're going to be losing a lot of these titans of cinema at an increased clip, and this is kind of the first shot across the bow for that sea change of basically the stars and directors of the collective conscious cinema. really.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. And certainly, the five names that we mentioned, I mean, that is not comprehensive at all. There's certainly other artists, and I would strongly urge anybody to go watch the TCM Remembers on YouTube. They do a really good job every year. I would say better than the Oscars, even, of memorializing the artists that we've lost in a given year. So it's 7 minutes. I would highly recommend anyone go check that out, because it will definitely make you realize just how many people we did lose in 2025. All right, let's talk about our lists now. Before we get started, do you have any overall thoughts on the year that was in terms of movie making? I feel like if you go into any pocket, you can find a lot of great movies, depending on the country, depending on what's released and whatnot. But it's just a matter of finding them in a lot of ways. So I'm just curious to know, like, in putting your top 10 together and thinking about this movie year overall, did you feel it was hard? Did you feel like it was a great year, a strong year? Did you struggle to get to 10? How was your process this year?
I basically made it to exactly 10. Like by the end of the year, I was like, I am comfortable with my 10. These are my 10 favorite movies of the year. You can see it in kind of the score distribution of the movies on Letterboxd if you want to get that nerdy with it. It does feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe this is like the dregs of the strike action and COVID kind of like it felt a soft year if what you were excited for in cinema was American blockbuster cinema. And that's not to say there weren't great blockbusters. There are multiple fantastic blockbusters on my list. But if you were looking for uh, the kind of like the full-throated stuff that we've been having the last couple of years, it definitely felt soft in that. And I think you can see that in the ways in which this award season are currently going, in that like there is a genuine shot that four international movies make it into the best picture lineup this year, which is kind of unprecedented. And obviously, some of that is like the changing moods of the Academy and the shifting tides of kind of like what arguably the best thing that Netflix has done in its reign is open the door to more international flavored media being kind of like open to people. And obviously you have things like anime movies periodically becoming like the highest grossing like international feature films of all time at this point when you're looking at a box office basis. Like, and these are two obviously had a small release in America, but is still a $2 billion grosser in this world. Oh no, we don't get into box office, but like I think that's kind of like where we're seeing things where it's like
Of
we
course.
are we are
I mean, it's
losing.
inevitably going to come up. And
Yeah,
what
but
I would also say, go ahead.
no, it feels like the Hollywood kind of dominance of everything is slipping, and there is more room for more interesting movies to come from America and for more international movies to have kind of like a big place on the center stage, which is nice to see.
Well, I think people are just more used to subtitles. I mean, people watch subtitles anyway, so I don't think it's that much of a stretch to then expect them to go see international movies because they're used to subtitles. I think our generation and younger is just much more used to that. And I also think that there is a lot. I don't think that the popularity of anime can be underestimated. I don't know that anime is necessarily on either one of our lists, but it is definitely, I think, only going to contribute because I think logically, if the younger generation is willing to watch subbed anime, they might also be more eventually willing to watch movies that are subbed as well. So I think that we're going to have to see how that impacts it. The international box office, in terms of animation, was huge this year. I mean, the biggest movie of the year was a Chinese animated movie. So I think that bombed in the United States, by the way. Just want to point that out. But it's just been a really interesting year. And you mentioned the international component, which you are certainly accurate. But we are also in a situation where we could see two horror movies also potentially be nominated. And we're going to see how Sinners and Weapons and whether they're able to get nominations, how many nominations will they get, how viable are they as contenders. So it is going to be a fascinating year because I'm kind of over the Oscars, but it will be very interesting if you get two horror movies and four international movies in the Best Picture race, because I think that that will be a huge sea change for the Oscars.
Yeah, especially when the movies that they'll be beating will be presumable things like Avatar: The Way of Water, not Avatar, Avatar: Fire and Ash, and Wicked for Good, which like going into this award season felt like, oh yeah, we're just going to nominate them because James Cameron and Wicked were like such forces in previous years. Whereas now it's like, is there what is there? And even then, I'd say like, I mean, when you say the two horror movies, are you saying Weapons and Sinners, or are you saying Frankenstein and Sinners? Because Frankenstein to me feels like far more positioned for a Best Picture at this point,
I
purely
mean,
because they
then
love
that
Guillermo del Toro.
possibly raises that raises the possibility for a third. I don't know if Weapons is viable for Best Picture, but I know that I guess Amy Madigan is much more likely person to be nominated.
I would
Maybe
it would
better.
Weapons ceiling to me is like probably like a makeup, probably a Amy Madigan, probably a original screenplay would be the three that I would go if they're going to win any.
That's fair. I mean, but the fact that it's even being considered, I think,
Oh, absolutely.
shows a huge sea change. I feel like Sinners feels like the guarantee. It's going to get at least a token Best Picture nomination.
Sinners is going to get a lot of nominations. It's going to win a lot of technicals. And we will discuss later on in this episode because I think both of us have its main
Yes,
competitor
yes,
somewhere on this
which is
list.
from
So
the
we
same
will,
studio, by the way, the studio that is
yes.
going to be sold to Netflix. Which, again, that is a whole other podcast. But without any further ado, I think we should get into our top 10. So, Ben, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting with the studio that's gonna be on my list four times this year. Warner Brothers, I think they just had a like it sucks the news about Netflix buying Warner Brothers. Is it the best case scenario in this situation? Who knows? All of it is terrible. But Warner Brothers, in terms of theatrical releases in 2025, had a phenomenal year. My number 10 movie is the starting point of James Gunn's DC universe. It is Superman 2025. I think this is to me, James Gunn is just a guy who intrinsically understands superheroes. The fact that he's able to go from something a bit more flippant in Guns of Galaxy to something which is so much more full-throatedly kind of optimistic with this movie is so impressive. It might not be kind of like up to snuff as like the filmmaking fundamentals that you will see on the other movies on my list, but I just think this is what I want to see from blockbusters in the 21st century. At this point, I want to see movies that are uh, just full of charismatic performers and willing to take risks and be slightly strange and I don't know, like buck conventions of everything. I think this is a movie that announces David Corenswet to the world as kind of like a force. Whether or not he will be able to parlay that into other performances, there is a bit of a curse when it comes to Superman actors. But like it's just a cast that's full of so many bright spots. I mean, Brosnahan as Lois Lane is incredible. They actually have horny chemistry for the first time in any Superman movie. Like even back to the 1978 movie, which has like a fantastic romance. I think this one feels more realistic to where we're at in terms of the 21st century position on marriage and sex. Nicholas Hoult as Lex
Wait, you
Luthor
don't
is
want Margot
fantastic.
Kidder reciting poetry in her head while they're flying?
It's that is a fantastic scene, but I much prefer the kind of like these guys are like gonna like make out the moment they're like in private and just obviously have like so much physical chemistry between them. Which is like key. But yeah, like Holt as Luther is fantastic. Really want to shout out Scarlett Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen, which that may be my biggest surprise of the entire movie was coming away from it and going like they're doing like proper like Bronze Age, Silver Age Jimmy Olsen comics where Jimmy Olsen's going to go off into a scrap and be like the most desirable man in the world, and the only way he can solve it is by like this like group of women that are like so intensely like attracted to him. Yeah, Gunn has the juice. I'm really excited to see where he goes with this. It's been a terrible decade for DC, so to have a movie that is out and this good, it makes me so happy.
I'm really glad this movie was very good. This would be on my honorable mentions. It would not make my top 10. It's funny that the guy who did superhero podcasts for years did not put a superhero movie in his top 10, but Superman is clearly a class above the rest. And I think that what makes the fact that this movie made me believe that Superman could actually be in a good movie again is probably good unto itself. I think the scene with Brosnahan and Corn Sweat in the 12 minutes that they have, that scene
The
toward the
interview.
beginning, the interview is probably one of the best superhero scenes that I've seen in a long time. I think it's clearly mirroring the scene from the first one in a very different way because it's obviously much more intense and getting into the philosophical questions of whether Superman should exist and what role he should play. It's just, I mean, that 12-minute scene locked me into the rest of this movie, and you've got great supporting characters, and you've got just a lot of really great moments. And Crypto is also the best boy. We also have to point that out as well.
Crypto is the best boy. I'm excited to see more Crypto and Supergirl later on this year. I'm hoping they haven't put like a bad step forward with that one, but I don't know. Like the trailer looks interesting, but I'm not excited by the director. But I am excited by the lead actress. So I don't know. We'll see
It's
where
going to
that
be
one lands.
like, I don't know, like if it's bad, I feel like James Gunn. I really hope that he's not trying to create a super interconnected universe, and that each movie can kind of stand on its own. That's what my hope is. But I think in terms of Superman, I think he did an unbelievable job of just kind of bringing him back to the screen and really making you believe that Superman can actually be a good character on screen again. Something that we haven't literally had maybe since Superman 2. If you want to argue the first Superman, I would certainly entertain those arguments.
I am a Superman Returns defender.
I mean, I think it's better than people give it credit for. I'm just saying, like, something truly, I don't know, that people like there's certainly like I can defend parts of Superman Returns too, but I think I'm more thinking about like the general consensus and
Yeah,
also having
I
some
mean,
box office success.
yeah, that's things. In movies, I think this is the positioning Superman in a far more exciting place. Obviously, Superman's kind of existed in TV quite ably for like probably a character that's like come out
Unbelievably
of the
so. Like you
yeah
wouldn't
the
think
C
that Superman would, but he has.
the CW verse. I feel like has done well, or the Arrowverse, sorry, has done well with Superman. Obviously, Brandon Routh came back to play a version again, and the Superman and Lois TV show. I think like generally people really positive on that one.
Yeah, and remember Dean Cain was Superman too?
Nope.
Oh, that's fair. All
Mm.
right, so I my number 10 is a movie that I just saw, and I want to preface this by saying that if I did this list in like 2 months, it might be higher on my list, but I did not feel like I could not justify not putting on my list, so I'm just slotting it here at number 10 because it needed to be on my list. My number 10, it was just an accident. This is a movie that really wowed me, and it is a very tight 1 hour and 43 minutes. And for a movie that is so dark, for it to also be so funny and humorous and really make you feel sympathetic to all sides of what is happening in the story, with the premise being that a group of people are basically think that the person that they have captured may possibly have basically like been a part of their torture, and it's the sound of his fake leg, his peg leg, that makes them believe that this is a possibility. And this is a movie that does not provide any easy answers, but it is something that I think we all have to be conscious of. And I can't help but think, given what's going on in the United States, this is a very real possibility as we move forward with everything going on in terms of immigration, how people are going to feel about ICE agents as well. But it was just an accident. Really stands on its own, and I was just so impressed by this movie, and I really want to go back and see the other movies made by this filmmaker as well. Jafar Panahi, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you seen anything else by Jafar Panahi?
I have not, but this movie made me very curious because I know that he has quite a story in his own right.
Yeah,
That he
I have this movie slightly higher up on my list. I'll probably do a bit of like diving into that there because I've spent a lot of kind of the last couple of years. Like I've watched a lot of his movies, and this one is so interesting in terms of how it differs from kind of the last 10, 15 years of his filmmaking, in kind of like quite significant ways that have let it play so much more internationally than some of the other stuff he's getting. But like, no, this is a fantastic movie, one of the best of the year. I'm so happy it's getting like buzz and being seen by so many eyeballs.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much went into this blind, and I was truly blown away. And again, it is this movie is very heavy, but the fact that it's also funny is probably one of the more impressive elements of this. Is that a movie like this shouldn't be funny, and it is. Like that, I keep coming back.
Yeah, he is a master of tonal control.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason this movie is at number 10 is I had a really hard time because you're watching a bunch of stuff at the end of the year, and I had a really hard time like figuring out, well, is this better than my number 9 or 8? And I was just like, I'm gonna slot it at number 10, and at least it's in the top 10. That's the most important thing for me.
My number nine, moving on, is a movie by one of my favorite filmmakers in the world. This is Park Chan-wook's new movie, No Other Choice, which, speaking of masters of tonal control, this is a movie about a man who is made redundant from his job and basically decides to, when applying for other jobs, wipe out the rest of his competition, is kind of the log line for this movie. I don't know, like South Korea has kind of become the preeminent social commentary for capitalist movies of our day and age. Obviously, like people have been comparing it to Parasite. I think this is a very different movie to Parasite. I think it's wears its comedy in a very different way to how Parasite was a black comedy. Um I, I don't know, like no other
This
choice
movie
to
is
me.
not nearly as clean, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, no other choice is it's a lot shaggier. It's the kind of like the things it's reaching for are a lot messier than kind of the metaphors of Parasite. Um it goes down slightly harder. Like I don't know, like it feels a bit more like a jagged pill. But it's nonetheless kind of like it's so funny. In so many ways, like in that way of like so much physical humor, I think Lee Byung-hun is incredible as the central the lead character in this movie. Um, oh God, it's so hard to talk about this one without spoiling anything, but like just the escalation of the comedic set pieces in this movie, and the ways in which they ping between being like incredibly funny and then being incredibly dark and heartfelt, is incredible. Yeah, I mean Park Chan-wook can do it better than anyone else in the world right now, and I cannot wait for like a second or third or fourth viewing of this movie. It's technically still not out here in the UK. I got to see a festival screening of this one, but it's one I'm so excited to revisit.
So, do you think that the decision to cast Lee Byung-hun was based on who he played in Squid Game?
I mean, obviously, the pool of actors who, I mean, obviously, Park Chan-wook can like employ anyone he wants to kind of like lead his
Right.
movie. I could see Song Sang-woo could definitely have like, not Song Sang-woo, Song, God, what is his name?
Whose name?
The lead actor of Parasite. Song Kang-ho from Parasite could easily have like been the lead of this movie. He's worked with Park Chan-wook before, and is also recognizable to kind of Western audiences. I don't think the consideration is being made for like Western audiences at the heart of this movie, but I I do fundamentally think that like Lee Byung-hun is probably the most recognizable Korean actor in the world right now. Obviously, like a little bit overshadowed, as you say, by Squid Game. He is the voice of the demon in K-pop Demon Hunters as well. Um, Kind of a stellar year for him, really. But no,
Yes.
I do think, yeah, like those are contributing factors. Like this, and now it definitely positions this on a far more international level than I think even kind of like movies like Handmaiden and Decision to Leave have been placed.
Yeah, I was definitely seeing trailers for this, and when I went to a screening, like it was like an 11:30 a.m. screening. It was mostly full, and again, this is playing at one theater in Chicago, but I mean, this definitely, I think these movies are definitely finding an audience, and I was really pleased that it seemed to be doing well, and this is an honorable mention for me, so I really like this movie as well. I think that shagginess that you mentioned is probably why it isn't in my top 10, but I still appreciate a lot of what this movie is at least trying to do. and some of the directions that it goes into. And again, I don't want to spoil anything because I think this is a movie that not a lot of people have probably seen. Like if we get four international movies nominated for Best Picture, and this is one of them, I would be very pleased about that because I think it would be a great sign. And again, Korea, like the art that they've put out in terms of both movies and TV shows has been so impressive, and this is just another example of that. And we certainly we had this. We also had we had a Bong Joon Ho movie as well this year that I would have considered an honorable mention. So it's been another great year for Korean artists.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like Park Chan-wook is a guy who I think is doing things behind the camera that I don't think anyone is doing. There are like shots
Yeah.
and sequences and the ways the camera moves and is set up and is like framing things that are just absolutely incredible. Like yeah, just one of the best. He will be in my like director five for this year. Just because he is one of the probably the five best directors working in the world right now. Even if this
Yes.
movie is like my number nine on this list right now. But like, I just
I mean,
yeah
you can only
adore
put
it. And
10 movies in your like when you watch 150 movies or you watch 400 movies. Like, there's only so many that could go in the top 10. I mean, there's
exactly,
only 10, right? Okay,
absolutely.
so my number nine is a movie that probably nobody has ever heard of, but I would you have watched my number nine movie if it had not been in my top 10?
I watched your movie, I think, before I knew it was in your top 10 because this had been a favorite on the blank check Discord for quite a while and had been
Okay.
kind of like whispered like there's a strong contingent of fans for this. I think David, the one of the hosts of Blank Check, is like a massive like stumper for this movie. Like it was in his top 10, so it was one that I was like, okay, I need to find time for Eephus. Just spoil your top 10 to say it for, just spoil your number nine to say it
That's
for
fine.
you.
I mean, so my number nine is this. This is I would describe this movie by saying that it is a movie that I'm shocked that Richard Linklater, his name is not attached to this as either a director or producer, because this is the kind of movie that I think he would have been very much into, because there's the baseball component, but there's also the fact that this movie really isn't, like, in terms of a plot, it is not about anything, and yet it is about everything in terms of like thinking about nostalgia and what we value. And there's so many elements of this movie I like. Like there's no recognizable actors in this movie. This is not a movie that has like a definitive ending. It is about a baseball field that's going to be shut down, and it's the last baseball game that's ever being played. And we're not talking about professional baseball. We're talking about probably below amateur level. Like, two of my favorite parts of this movie. Number one, how shitty the field looks. I think that really adds to it. And I don't know if you've watched a lot of baseball, but like in terms of the quality of the play, I also really appreciate the fact that the baseball looks terrible and it doesn't look cinematic at all. Because I think whenever you watch, like for me, baseball is one of our most cinematic sports, and the way that you can shoot it, it looks great. But obviously, a conscious effort is being made in Eephus to make it look terrible. And I was just very impressed with this. I don't even I'm not a blank check person, so I did not see it through that. But I think just by being a sports fan, and this eventually reached me at some point, and I give Carson Lund, the director, all the credit in the world for making a great movie that really speaks to kind of the experience of being an American, and just the fact of what we do to like property and to old things. Like, I don't know if your experience is probably very different, because in the UK it feels like no buildings ever get destroyed and everything kind of stays the same. But in the United States, like, we love destroying buildings and putting up new things and putting up condos and putting in new restaurants and just changing everything. So it's just, this movie was an utter delight for me. I was so impressed with this, and this is another movie that I had to put in my top 10 because I want this movie to get some credit. It is not going to get nominated for any Academy Awards, but I was just very impressed.
Yeah, this is. I think the thing that I was missing for this is I do not have that nostalgia for either like the American pastime or the kind of like the American cultural institutions that this is kind of like reaching for. But like as a gentle hangout comedy question mark, this is just really nice. Like I love all the little bits where like um the movie almost fails to get off the ground because they don't have enough players to play this last baseball game, and like that's kind of like the biggest point of tension in the first like 5-10 minutes of the movie, and by the end of it they're like refusing to end the game even though they have no lights, and they have to like gather cars around to kind of like shine light on the pitch. They can even like carry on playing just so they can finish out this game. Just the insistence and the perseverance of this team. Like I again, it's not a movie you spoil. It's entirely vibes based and focused from start to finish.
I love the fact that this movie simultaneously is nostalgic, but is I mean it's so American in that way, is that it is very nostalgic, but it also cannot help but move forward as well. Like this is going to be the last game. This is not a movie where they're going to save the stadium at the end because they raise enough money. Like this is the last game, and it's very uniquely American in the best and worst possible ways.
I did find it quite funny when you said that there's no recognizable names in this film. I think the only person I knew from the cast list is that Frederick Wiseman, the documentary filmmaker, is like one of the radio voices at one point in the movie, which I think just goes to show you how tiny, tiny, tiny this movie is. But I mean, obviously, I think like 31,000 letterbox logs. I think this movie has like breached containment for kind of like what the standard budget and scale of this kind of movie is. It's really nice to see. I do think Carson Lund is like a talent to look out for. Like, hopefully, this can be parlayed into a bigger budget. I do not wish him on blockbuster filmmaking works or anything like that you normally get with these like indie successes. But like the ability to just wield a few $1 million for this man would be like amazing.
I mean, how about we actually let him direct a theatrical comedy? How about we could try that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
All
not.
right,
Again, it's just like $5 million just to make something would be.
can we go back to making? I mean, but Brian and I were discussing this because we were discussing Top Secret, which is not a great movie, but $8 million budget. It made $20 million, and they probably made a little bit of money. And maybe we could go back to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead, number eight.
Number eight. We're going back to the world of Warner Brothers with this one. I'm talking Weapons. One of the best horror movies of this year. One of the best horror movies of this decade. Um, This is obviously Zach Cregger's follow-up to Barbarian, which was kind of a sleeper success in 2021 or 2022. I forget which year it was, but obviously he is just parlaying into bigger and better things. I think what makes Weapons so fantastic is obviously like it's got so much bubbling away under the surface, but completely refuses to kind of like make a clean metaphorical take. Like you can go away and go, oh, Zach Cregger wrote this movie after the death of one of his best friends, and there's like a level of grief undercutting all of it. But that is a complete misnomer for what this movie is, because this movie is shocking and violent and funny and like it's so many things. Again, this is Zach Cregger is proving himself to be someone with like complete tonal control. It has some of the best performances of the year. Like Julia Garner and Josh Brolin as are sensible leads, but obviously the movie is like kind of like far more bifurcated than that in terms of like their screen time. Alden Ehrenreich and Austin Abrams, like very very funny and in lots of ways, and then that's without saying anything about Amy Madigan, who is just a bolt of lightning in this film, and I have her as my best supporting actress winner for this year. I hope she gets nominated at the Oscars. She is incredible.
She's really good. So this is higher on my list, so I'm probably gonna have a lot more to say a little bit later. I'll kind of talk about big picture stuff, but I love the fact that this movie refuses to tell you what is going on, and it really takes its time. And the way that it unfolds is so impressive. Like this movie is a magic trick, and the fact that it works is amazing to me. Like this movie on paper should not work, and the fact that it works as well as it does speaks to how talented Zach Cregger is as a filmmaker. And I really hope that he gets to do whatever he wants and not get stuck in like doing prequels and sequels to Weapons. Like that's my concern and my fear is that he's going to end up doing that prequel, and it's just going to be repeating some of the same beats. Because, I mean, look, I liked the Barbarian a lot. I loved Weapons, and
Yes.
also great use of Justin Long in Weapons too, as well.
Yes. Like again, he's obviously someone who's loyal. I'm loving this trend of let's give comedy directors, or sorry, like comedy people, like TV guys, like more of a chance to make horror movies because I do think there is so much DNA between comedy and horror, and I think we're in a world where a lot of horror guys are being far too like po-faced and serious. Like you look at other horror movies from this year that like are getting support and love, like Longlegs last year and Bring Her Back this year, but they're just far too po-faced and dark. And I think this movie has like the tonal control. He Zach Cregger. I'm not saying he's got kind of the social commentary of a Jordan Peele, but he is the closest we have to a Jordan Peele in terms of that crossover success of being able to blend that comedy into horror in really interesting ways.
Yes, and I'll talk more, but I have a lot more thoughts, but I will talk about it later. My number eight is a movie that should never have been. This movie should not have been released on Netflix first, because if you watch Train Dreams on Netflix, I feel like you're almost doing it a disservice. I really want to see this on the big screen, just because I think so much gets lost. I still have it as my number eight movie of the year. Another movie that is delivering some commentary about America. This movie is takes place over 100 years ago at this point, and I think that this is a movie that made me realize maybe Joel Edgerton is actually good, which I've kind of been questioning for years. Like, is he good? Is he just kind of meh? I was very impressed by this movie. This is a movie that really snuck up on me. You also got some great William H. Macy. He popped up in a couple of movies, and I didn't think The Running Man was particularly good, but I think William H. Macy was good in it. And he also has a small part in this movie as well. And I was just very, very impressed by everything about this in terms of the atmosphere and the setting and just what this movie was able to do. And some of the, I mean, again, this is a movie that's not going to punch you in the face with its commentary. But I really appreciate the fact that it goes out of its way to portray this kind of normal guy and what he has to do to support his family and what happens to his family and finding life afterward. More great Carrie Condon as well. I feel like Carrie Condon is really good in these types of roles where she comes in as a supporting player and is really just able to elevate a movie. And sometimes I'm against narration in movies, but I mean, if you're going to have somebody narrate it, it might as well be Will Patton. So I loved this movie a lot, and I know Ben is not as much of a fan of it, but he doesn't understand America, so you'll have to forgive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say something now, and you're gonna yell at me. So this movie had like a limited theatrical release, kind of like a few weeks before I went to Japan. I was like, right, I'm gonna go out my way. I'm gonna go see this, and I just completely failed to. And then I downloaded it onto my iPad, and I watched this on a
Benjamin, Ben Phillips, Ben
watched this
Phillips,
on a 14-hour flight back from Japan.
Ben Phillips.
Yes.
This is a crime. Like somebody should have seen you watching Train Dreams on your iPad and arrested you.
Yeah, they should. They didn't. I watched this on a plane, on an iPad. It was very close to my face. It's basically the same as the cinema, I think they say.
Oh my
Um,
God.
um, I, I, I think this movie looks gorgeous. I think, as you say, Joel Edgerton is like fantastic in this film. It's funny because I always think of him as a man who gets cucked in basically every movie he's in. And he's fantastic in that role. And I mean, you could say he gets cut by fire in this movie.
Oh my
Um,
God. Oh, Benjamin, you are not helping your cause right now. I am
uh,
literally calling the police right now. I'm calling Interpol. I want a full investigation.
um, yeah, I think this is a nice movie. I just kind of got the feeling that it was like I'm feeling budget Malik vibes from this. I will do a rewatch on a bigger screen. I will see if they're doing like a screening at a proper cinema near me, and I will give this another shot. But like for my first viewing, it did not land in that way. Even though I liked all the performances, I liked the the methodical nature of all of it. I love the kind of the elasticity of time within the movie. And there were things that like I wish the movie kind of like delved into more ultimately. And instead it kind of came away feeling it was like a movie that I wish was almost like more experimental. Like it kind of was a bit more middlebrow than I maybe wanted from a movie that was giving me Malik vibes.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like this movie had a very clear position and a clear idea of what it was going for, and I think it executed it really well. And I
Have
do
you read
that
the
Malik.
book?
I have not read the book.
Okay. I just a lot of people I know who like did not like it are coming from it from a point of view of being like they adapted the book badly or incorrectly. Um which I've not read it either, so I can't speak to it, so I didn't know whether or not. And
See,
then
that's why sometimes I almost like the fact that I see a movie based on a book and haven't read the book yet. Which is weird because I just read Project Hail Mary, and that's coming out next year. So I'm going to be in a very different position compared to where I usually am because I
I,
will have
I'm
actually read the book.
I'm going to tangent you on this right now, which is to say, I think the decision to reveal the thing they reveal in the trailers for Project Hail Mary after reading the book is entirely correct. And everyone getting annoyed that they didn't, I'm like, what fucking thing are they going to put in that trailer if they're not if they don't reveal that in the trailer for this movie? Because
I mean, I
that
think
is
it's
the
a
entirety of the book.
I understand why you would adapt it, but I think it's gonna. I'm very curious because I think it's a very hard movie. I think it's a very hard book to get right.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna
absolutely.
say. So
Um,
Train Dreams is great, and this guy.
the other thing I just want to ask is so obviously the a lot of the creative team on this one are the Sing Sing team.
Yes,
Where were you on Sing Sing last year?
I mean I liked it. I didn't love it, which is why I was very skeptical going into this. And look, the fact that it was on Netflix and like it didn't look like a Netflix movie is what made me like get into it right away because I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot because it's on Netflix. It doesn't look like, it's not Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson doing something. This is a movie that it looks and feels like a real movie. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And
Okay,
I was this of all the movies in my top 10, this is the one that I probably didn't have the lowest expectations for going into it and is the one that I was probably most surprised by. And maybe that is contributing to why it ends up in the top 10.
no, I mean I know a lot of people who love this movie. However, you have now put Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson in the Joel Edgerton and Felicity Jones roles in this movie, and maybe that's a better movie.
I did not do you you are misinterpreting my statements and I'm again going to have to call the police because I feel like you have committed some crimes on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to speak for some crimes on my next pick as well.
Oh
But
boy.
not like serious crimes, but like my number seven pick, a director who I may be like number one stan for in terms of like this late move in his career. I'm going to be talking
Nobody
Wes
likes
Anderson.
symmetrical camera shots more than Ben Phillips.
Oh my God, I got so annoyed about the TikTok trend of people going like, "This is shot like a Wes Anderson movie." I'm like, "No, it's not. You do not have any sense of like style or symmetry or like shot composition that Wes Anderson and his entire creative team does." My number seven is the Phoenician Scheme. Um, I think Wes Anderson has been like an absolute heater in these last kind of like 5 years. He's done. I'm going to call it four movies. I'm going to include Henry Sugar in that as well because even though they're short films, I do think there's like a cumulative build to the kind of the things that they're doing. I know a lot of people find him like increasingly cold and emotionless. Um, but I just find everything he's doing, he is able to filter a very specific strand of emotion through a lot of the stuff that he's doing. In his movies nowadays, and I do think that people are bumping up against it, but I think Asteroid City is one of the 10, 15 best movies of the decade so far. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. I've got like in terms of my favorite performances of the year, Mia Threepleton and Michael Cera are like two of my favorites. I think I like both of them are in my five
Michael
for lead
Cera
actress, and
not being in more Wes Anderson movies is a surprise because if you would like, it's almost a joke at this point. Like, of course he's in a Wes Anderson movie.
yeah. No, I think it's just because he did Juno. I think Juno is the one that kind of gives the vibes that he did more Wes Anderson. But no, this is his first appearance. The changes and modulations that his character goes through of the movie are incredible. I'm loving this era of Tom Hanks being a Wes Anderson supporting role. This movie is obviously like very, again, it's bifurcated. It's episodic in a way that Grand Budapest and French Dispatch and Henry Sugar and all of his movies are. He is making very similar movies, and I just keep eating it up because I just think he knows exactly what he's doing. I'm glad he is taking a break now. It seems like we don't have casting news or anything for like another movie. So it'd be nice to have like maybe a year or two away. But like for whatever he comes back with, I'm going to be so excited.
See, for a guy who makes the same movie over and over again, allegedly, I'm very up and down on him. Like Grand Budapest Hotel, I think is his best movie, and it's probably one of my favorite movies of the century. But like Asteroid City, could not get into it at all. Phoenician Scheme, I was very much. This would be honorable mention for me. I really like this. Some really good Benicio del Toro this year, I would say. A
Yes.
movie that we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about him later on in this podcast. But I mean, I think this movie just works from start to finish, and I really appreciated it. I think that for me, there's generally kind of a ceiling where, like, if I'm giving it a letterbox rating, generally the ceiling is like 4 stars, and I still like it. I'm never gonna be the person that's like, I am. I will go see every Wes Anderson movie in theaters, but I'm never gonna be like, Wes Anderson made the best movie of the year. I'm never gonna be that person, but I still really like what he's doing. I'm glad he exists. I'm glad that we get weird Tom Hanks and weird Bryan Cranston in a scene together. That almost makes this movie worth it by itself, aside from anything else.
Yeah, I mean it is interesting because I feel like a lot of people and their relationship to Wes Anderson is entirely shaded by what's your opinion on the Royal Tenenbaums, essentially, of like, is that one of the 10, 15, 20 greatest movies of all time? And obviously we were speaking about Gene Hackman at the top of this movie, and that is one of the greatest latter year performances from any of our great actors, really. Um and I don't know, there are people who are like, there's something about the open emotionality of Royal Tenenbaums that I bump up against. I still think Royal Tenenbaums is fantastic. I like love all the performances in that one, but the way that he is filtering the emotion through stylistic choices now, I think is speaks to me far more strongly than some of the stuff that he was doing in the mid 2000s that
Yeah, I
people
mean,
have
I like
nostalgia for.
Tenenbaums a lot, but I think I think something like Grand Budapest Hotel is much stronger, in
Yes.
my opinion. All right, so my number seven is Blue Moon. I am a huge fan of Richard Linklater. I think I was actually going back and I'm like, if I did a top 10 for like so many years, I could go back and put Richard Linklater movies. I would argue, and I'm not sure you would argue against this. Probably one of our best filmmakers. And what I appreciated about Blue Moon is the fact that it feels very different, but also of a same piece. And he's very clearly reflecting on his own journey as a filmmaker. And I think you feel that conflict in who Ethan Hawke plays. Ethan Hawke, I guess, famously they were supposed to do this movie over a number of years, and I think that he had to age into the role, which he did, and I think he's really great. I don't think he's going to get nominated for an Academy Award, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's the circumstance of just how competitive the acting fields are going to be this year. But I still think he's really good, and it's worth mentioning. This is a movie that very much feels like a play, and it very much feels like, I mean, it's very small, it's very slight, but it also, I think, says a lot about artists and who they are as people and how complicated they can be, and how self-destructive artists can be as well. Like they can make great art, but man, sometimes they might not be great people, and they might not always be the easiest to get along with. And I was just very impressed by Hawk. Bobby Cannavale also very good as the bartender. A very strong performance out of him. Margaret Qualley, who had a very interesting year to say the least. I think I really like where her and Ethan Hawke's relationship goes in this movie, because I think it could have turned into a cliche and it didn't, and I really appreciated that. This is another movie that nobody saw because it really didn't make a lot of money, but I really like this a lot. We also got a very good Andrew Scott supporting performance, and Wake Up Dead Man is not in my top 10, but it would have been in my honorable mentions. So Andrew Scott doing some very good work in some with some very good directors this year as well. So Blue Moon is my number seven. And I mean, I don't know that Wes Anderson and Richard Linklater are similar, but in terms of like the output and some of the consistency and the people that they work with, I mean, we're talking about two of our best filmmakers, and it's good to know that even as they are, going beyond middle age, that they're still making great work.
I mean, it's funny to compare them because obviously they both come from similar indie backgrounds in the 90s, but to the point where Wes Anderson is so careful and concise, and Wes and Linklater is so much more improvisational and darting around. Like you look at the four movies he's made in the 2020 so far in Apollo 10 and a half, Hitman, Blue Moon, and Nouvelle Vague, and like there is nothing similar about any of them. Like, yes,
No,
there are actors that are the same between them, but you've got an animated movie, a dark comedy, you've got a deeply felt drama, and then you have a black and white making of movie for an entire era of film that is like nothing like anything that Richard Linklater has done.
and
There's
he's making a
DNA.
movie that's not going to come out for what 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, they're shooting merrily like the entire time that like we're talking about this. He is a deeply like fascinating director who's obviously like never comfortable in making the same movie twice. Even when he's making things like the before movies, like none of the before movies feel the same. They chart the
No,
same characters, but they're not the same movie at any point.
absolutely not.
And he is genuinely one of the most exciting directors we have going, and this is a fantastic movie with a fantastic Ethan Hawke performance, who I do think is going to make the Oscar 5, and I do think like there is a chance if he makes the 5 he wins. um
I would
I
be
think
very happy about
I
because
I think
I really like Ethan Hawke. I think
the
he's
thing
done
is,
some amazing work.
you look at the 5 acting nominations that are like in the ether for this year, with Leonardo DiCaprio, Timothy Chalamet, Michael B. Jordan, Wagner Moura, and Ethan Hawke, and I think all 5 of those could win it. And I don't think, like, arguably at this point, Leo is the one who's like the least exciting winner from that list, which is very funny to think that like maybe if we hadn't given it to him for Revenant, this would be the finally the year where we just have to give it to Leo undeniably. But like all 5 of those performances are like 5 of the best acting performances of the decade, really. I think they're all deeply felt, and I would maybe go out on a limb and say like maybe is Ethan the best of them, because he is incredible in this film, and this film is
I
so
mean, he's really good. Like I haven't really, I try not to think about that, but I mean, he like this movie doesn't work if he's not amazing in it. Like this movie is a chore to get through if he's not calibrated correctly, and he is calibrated correctly because I mean he's really doing something different here. Because it's funny, there was a TV show airing around the same time called The Lowdown, which is really good. Ethan Hawke is very good in it, but you could just tell in this movie his performance is of a completely different caliber than something he's doing on a TV show.
I see. I thought there were a lot of similarities between this performance and his performance in Moon Knight.
I can't believe he went there. I just
No.
I
Okay.
I you are in so much trouble. The cops are going to be knocking on your door any minute now.
No,
I'm so
he is
thoroughly
better in
disgusted
Blue.
with it now.
He's better in Blue Moon than he is in Moon Knight. Yeah, like, this is a movie where he is on screen 100% of the time. Like, is there a moment in this movie where Ethan Hawke is not, even if he's not
I
like
can't
directly
remember.
in?
I would need to rewatch it, but I mean he's just about in every scene.
Yeah, but I don't think even when the camera is on someone else, he is the person who that person is speaking to, really, or like
Yeah,
it's from his perspective. It's so, and the ways in which, I mean, because obviously like it's a wickedly funny movie, but like the humor comes from this just incredible depressed and dark place in this
yeah.
person. And yeah, like this movie is like my number 13. Like it was so close to making it onto the list. Um yeah, it's fantastic. Go see it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a black comedy. This is a sad comedy, is what it is.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's take a break. I need to go take care of something, so I will be right back, and then we can,
No worries.
yeah, because then you can go to the bathroom and whatnot. So I will be back in a
Hmm.
couple minutes. All right.
Okay, so yeah, my number six for 2025 is Sentimental Value. Joachim Trier's follow up to The Worst Person in the World, um, a movie that we recently covered on mine and Matt's podcast about 25 of favorite movies about the 21st century or 21st or 2020s. Um, this is, I mean, it's very much in the same vein as Worst Person in the World. It's still a movie about kind of millennial anxieties, but also this time there's kind of far more focus on the parental like angle to a lot of this stuff. Renata Reinsve and Inga Ilspotter Lilias is basically the two daughters of a director played by Stellan Skarsgård, and the movie is basically about these two sisters kind of navigating the world where their father comes back into their lives and is basically trying to make a movie of their childhood. But it's also deeply felt in the way that kind of Joachim Trier movies like intrinsically are. This is maybe pound for pound the best ensemble of the year. Um, it's also like incredibly funny. There is a joke in this movie about kind of like how much of a shitty dad grandfather that Stellan Skarsgård's character is, which in the festival context in which I saw it, like absolutely killed. Like you would think it was like one of the 10 funniest jokes that have ever happened in a movie. Um, yeah, this is a movie that is entirely built upon like the strength of the director in being able to navigate emotions, and then the kind of the central performances of this movie, even down to like Elle Fanning, who plays like an American ingenue, probably kind of like a Jennifer Lawrence or Emma Stone kind of stand-in, who's coming in to play the role of one of the sisters in this movie that's about their life. Which is like incredibly well calibrated on her part. Like Elle Fanning, who's having a terrific year with this and Predator Badlands. But yeah, this is just
I think I saw these two movies within 2 weeks of each other. I was like, Elle Fanning, good movie here.
yeah.
And the fact that like part of what makes this movie so unique is that Stellan Skarsgård has to act in two languages, and that is very impressive to me. I mean, obviously he knows multiple languages, but to have to act and to perform, I mean, it's really impressive. And
I'm trying. Is he doing two or three? Because the thing that I've heard people
there
say
might
is
have
that
been a
like
third.
I think the way that people say it is that like he is Swedish and speaks in Swedish when in Norway, but because Swedish and Norwegian are like similar enough, like you can understand each other kind of like well enough, but there's like depth of meaning that's missing, and that contributes to like this communication barrier between him and his daughters, who are speaking in Norwegian for the entirety of the movie. And again, like layers of things where like they're not explaining that, but like if you're a native kind of Scandinavian person, you would be able to tell that like this performance is being done in all these different like fascinating ways, and obviously like
I mean,
a
that
lot of
probably
this.
speaks to how good this movie is, regardless, because this is also in my top 10, but it's a little bit later.
Yes. So should we move on to your number six then?
Yes, my number six is Materialists. This is a movie featuring Pedro Pascal, who is not in a lot of movies this year. I was very surprised to see his name not in a lot of movies this year, of course.
Yeah, he only had like 20, 30, 40 screen credits this year.
Not to mention The Last of Us. I mean, it's just like, it's ridiculous how many movies he was in. This is a movie that is very much in keeping with some of the previous themes that this director has gone with in the past, and I don't know. I've definitely seen. This is a movie. There's a couple of movies in my top 10 that definitely have received mixed reactions, and I look. I think Celine's Song. I really liked her first movie a lot. I think this movie was even better, and I think that this movie just works. I don't look. I don't know if Dakota. I still can't decide if Dakota Johnson is good, but she's a very compelling on-screen figure for the first time in a movie that I can remember. And I mean, Pedro Pascal is always great, and I think he brings a lot of sensitivity to a character that could just have easily not worked at all. This is some very good work from Chris Evans, who, just like everybody else in the MCU, is stuck doing that until he's 90 years old. But it was good to see Chris Evans in a good movie that wasn't him playing like an asshole like he was in Knives Out. Like it's disappointing to me specifically about Chris Evans that he can't get more roles like this. And even if you don't think this movie is great, like you could see that I think you would at least acknowledge, I think, that Chris Evans is clearly going for something. And I was very surprised by how good, because I thought this movie was going to be fine, but I was very surprised. It was actually higher on my list, and I think that what I decided is that a couple of the horror movies are just flat out better. But I mean, this is still my number six movie, and it's definitely one that I will be rewatching at least a couple more times. So I was a huge fan of this, and I forget what you thought of this movie.
I really like this movie. I definitely spent a lot this year kind of being a lot warmer to the movies that were getting like mixed or negative reception. It was quite an interesting kind of like feeling by the end of the year to be like, I think I liked all of the things that had a divisive reception. Like I fell generally on the positive side of these swings from bigger directors. But no, I do think this movie is. I feel that people rankled at the ways in which this movie is a fairly. I don't know. It felt similar to ways we were talking about Wes Anderson, where like people like bumped off against the emotion or like the conceit of the way that romance is portrayed in this movie, and I kind of came away from it going like she's doing a modern day Pride and Prejudice. Like this is her take on Jane Austen, and the kind of like the ways of discussing love as transactional and whether or not there is mutual benefit to it, and then ultimately maybe there is like an actual like deeper emotional thing at the heart of the movie that people are jumping off of and all the rest of it. And like I laughed at all of the stuff with like the final conversation with Pedro Pascal. I think is like memed to death at this point in certain circles, but I did think it was like the exact right level of kind of like heightened and funny and a fairly astute commentary on kind of like the fucked up ways in which we are now presented dating and the ways in which money can affect dating in the 21st century in the exact same way that we're like money affected who you married back in Jane Austen's era. um yeah, a really good movie, a really good performance. I think the biggest shame is that like I kind of wish that Chris Evans had like scuzzed up a little bit more. He's not quite at the levels of like very obviously he was going back to a Marvel movie within 3 months, but like he looks a bit too perfect for a guy who lives in a shitty apartment and works a shitty job at this point.
Yeah, I could definitely maybe a little bit more makeup. I don't know what you do because like I don't want him wearing a fat suit because I think we need to move beyond that. But certainly, I think they could have done a little bit more. But I still think the
Even
movie
just
is
like
very
giving
effective.
him a slightly different facial hair shape because it's just too perfectly
Maybe a
coiffed and
goatee instead. Maybe instead of goatee instead of a full beard.
just a mustache, just a like a straight kind of like hipster mustache would probably suit him
But
quite
wouldn't that
well.
be a reference to the greatest movie of all time, The Gray Man?
That is true.
Like you
Uh...
can understand. Like if I was the lead song, I'd be like, nope, we're not doing that.
No, accurate. No, I think like Evans is good. It's a shame he's not done anything like this since Knives Out. It's very funny. He's a man who obviously has taste. Like when you look at his like pre-Marvel movies, and when you look at kind of like what he did immediately after Marvel, and then he spent 5 years doing the biggest loads of shit in the world.
And an
And I
Apple
really hope
TV
that
show that nobody watched.
yes, but I really hope this hasn't scared him off from doing more stuff like this.
I mean,
But
here's the
seeming
thing: Materialists did well at the box office. Like that's the thing. It's like we can again. I keep coming back to this, but like this movie did well. So I would love. I don't want to see Materialists too, but I would love to see Chris Evans do something like this. Like truly, I hope Avengers: Doomsday is his last Marvel movie. Like I'm hoping that is truly it. And that he can do
no, if
something
he's back for Doomsday, he's back for Secret Wars. It's
whatever.
like
You know what I mean? Like after the next two Avengers movies, like just let it be over, please.
yeah, it's sad at this point.
It is till you're 90. So that is my number six, The Materialists. Um, Dakota Johnson, good or not? I can't decide.
I think Dakota Johnson is an actress with a limited set of capabilities, but when you play to her limited set of capabilities, she can be incredible. And I think that it's just kind of recognizing what stuff works within her wheelhouse. Like Madam Web, not within her wheelhouse. 50 Shades, not within her wheelhouse. But then I think she is really good in The Materialists. God, what's the other Dakota Johnson performance that I'm actually quite fond of?
So while you
Um,
think of that, I mean, maybe she just needs a really strong female director to get the best out of her. Maybe that's the key to unlocking this.
I mean, yeah, the other movie I like her in Lost Daughter, um, which is kind of like the right level for her.
Yeah,
She's fun in her one scene in Social Network. Um, a very memorable scene in that movie, which is a masterpiece.
absolutely. I mean, we might actually agree that that's the best movie of the century, possibly.
Yes.
And now Aaron Sorkin's going to ruin it with a sequel. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Oh, it's going to hurt so bad. All
You
right,
know
your
what?
number five. Go
Speaking
ahead.
of people returning to movies that probably cemented them in people's brains, my number five is Danny Boyle and Alex Garland reteaming for 28 years later, which kind of shocked me with how good it is, and then also shocked me in how vitriolic people reacted against this movie. This is a movie where I
Wait, people
need.
were vitriolic against this movie?
I know a lot of people who like hated the final scene of this movie, and
Really?
felt yes, and felt it kind of like was the worst kind of tonal whiplash. And I'm sat there kind of like giggling with glee at like what this movie does in its final turn. Um,
That's very
uh,
interesting because like this is not in my top 10, but like the last scene was very logical to me. Go ahead.
Yes. So 28 years later, I want to shout out Anthony Dodmantle, who is the cinematographer of this movie, is the cinematographer for a lot of Danny Boyle movies. Is maybe one of the guy who like pushes the visuals the most in his movies. If you remember, kind of like the look of something like 127 hours, where like that is a movie that's trying to be visually interesting in a very limited environment, and then this is him unleashed into the world and all of the slow motion shots as they're taking down zombies, the incredible sequences as they're running across the fjord to kind of like get back into the back to their island. The colors that pop in this movie. I do there are colors in this movie that I do not think have ever been seen in film at any point in history.
Is
Uh,
that Ray Fiennes specific or just in general?
he is very orange in this movie. Um, yeah, this is a movie where it's dark, it's funny. Like every single sequence with the European Eric, I think it is, where he comes in with a mobile phone and kind of like completely fucks up their conception of like what the world is like. Incredible. I loved the literal balls to the walls nature of like the alphas just hanging the biggest prosthetic penises that you've ever seen. And then ultimately you settle down into what is like a really quite affecting and intimate family drama with like Jodie Comer and Aaron Taylor Johnson, fantastic. Alfie Williams in kind of I think it's his first film role is absolutely incredible. Ray Fiennes is still in my supporting actor five for what is one of my favorite genres of movie, which is like third act finds, where like he just shows up and kind of wrecks shop for your third act. Like he did it in Bruges, he did it in Harry Potter 4. There's probably more examples of this where you hold off to the last minute for Ray Fiennes and just knock the houses down. Yeah, I'm so excited to see where we go in like I think literally like 2 weeks with Bone Temple. I know people who've
Yeah,
seen
I'm
it and
really
they
excited for Bone Temple as well.
and they're like it's
Go ahead.
better. I've
Yeah,
heard.
I'm going to be very curious to see how that movie turns out because I really liked. I actually had not seen 28 Days or 28 Weeks Later before this, so I watched both. And I like 28 Days Later. I did not like 28 Weeks Later. We're just gonna. I think we've pretty much. I mean, this movie pretends 28 Weeks Later doesn't exist. So I think we
Yeah,
collectively can acknowledge it doesn't exist, right?
yeah, conveniently it's set so far away that 28 days later sets the tone. This movie carries on that tone. 28 weeks later is more let's make this into an American action movie. Like and you can see it from like it's a more international cast and it's a bigger scope, but in a far less interesting way.
I love the fact that they're like they crossed over, and then this movie's like, no, no, they didn't. That we
We
shot them up, we killed them all, and everybody's happy. But we're just gonna quarantine off this part of the world.
Yep. We will not talk about like the travesty that happened in England, and obviously like some of that is Alex Garland dealing with Brexit and like the politics
I
involved in
definitely saw
that.
a lot of memes that were like, "What a great idea to pretend that England doesn't exist."
Yeah, and then the final scene in this movie with Jack O'Connell is one of the most batshit insane things I've seen in a movie that I just couldn't stop laughing with glee at. The fact that God, I don't know if I can spoil it, but just the the sheer ballsiness to end the movie in the way that they did with a heavy metal cover of the Teletubbies theme song playing over it as well. Um,
Oh man, that I mean, it's so this. I really like this movie a lot, and I was surprised that I did. But look, Jodie Comer is very good, but I cannot believe that after Killing Eve, that she has not gotten like a proper lead action role in a movie. Like she is constantly either the woman in distress, she is the mother of Rey Skywalker. I want to see her in other things besides a woman in distress, please. And again, I say this as somebody who likes her in this role, and even Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I am very mixed on and almost negative on. I thought he was really good in this movie too. Like I
I
have to
think
say that
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson to me is someone who I don't know, like he when he goes full villain is bad, and when he goes full hero is bad, and this kind of like in between where he's like got a fundamentally good heart but has like really big flaws, I think plays very much into like his strengths as a actor at this point.
I also think him in a supporting role is better than him in a lead role too.
Absolutely, absolutely, no questions there.
So yeah, I mean, look, I think 28 years later was a home run, and also another movie that would have been an honorable mention. I mean, I think it's really good. My number five is Sentimental Value, which was of course Ben's number six movie. I really liked The Worst Person in the World. I think this movie is even better. I think what this movie has to say with how people show their love in some ways, I think is really powerful. And the fact that, Stellan Skarsgård continues to show who he is in both positive and negative ways. I think this movie has so much to say about that. I think his performance is really powerful. Elle Fanning is great, of course. And I think this is a movie that I think really is just the kind of thing that American movies just aren't anymore because it's not really genre heavy. It's very focused on like a modern family, and this is something that is much more in the realm of TV in the United States these days. And I'm really glad that we got something that was theatrically released, um, and is as good as it can be. And it's funny because I remember watching the opening scene of this movie, which I did not like at all. Like I was almost out on this movie in the first scene because I was like, "What is going on?" And it definitely won me over. The rest of the movie is really impressive. So if you're like me and we're not into the opening scene, make sure to give the rest of the movie a chance because it is well worth it. And the opening scene will be contextualized, and you will at least hate it a lot less, if nothing else. So for me, Sentimental Value is if any of the movies on the international list make it to Best Picture, I really hope it's this one above all others, and certainly I hope this isn't the only one. But to me, I think this is the real standout, and I really hope that it can also get other nominations as well because I think this is well worth seeing. And like, I don't think it has the sexiness factor of something um, something like some of the other international. Like, I feel like it was just an accident. You have, the great story of the director, no other choice. You have this legendary director. I hope Sentimental Value doesn't get lost in the shuffle because
I think Sentimental Value's got like a I'd say like the two that I'm most likely to make it a Sentimental Value, and it was just an accident, purely on it was just an accident. It's kind of like yeah, this huge bolt of lightning, and then Sentimental Value is you have Renata Ransfer, who is becoming a big crossover actress. I think like a big fuck up was them not nominating her for Best Actress in 2020 or 2021 for Worst Person in the World. Obviously, she's great in a different person or different man. Um, and and then we have the Stellan of it all, and I do think like Stellan is was at one point the favorite for supporting actor for this year. Obviously, I think that race is like very much kind of like tipped in a different direction, it seems now. But they it did feel like they were gearing up to giving him a career Oscar, and I do think that he was kind of elevating the movie up that like little bit more, and then having Elle Fanning. Like again, it's this really interesting world we're in where like
There's
yes,
only
this
so many
film is
nominations that you could put out there, you know?
exactly, but like we're in this world of international movies where like they're international, but this movie is quite a bit in English and features actors and actresses who are like well known in America and Britain.
Yes.
And like the walls are coming down around what we call an international movie, in kind of significant ways where people are interested in traveling to Europe and to Korea and to all kinds of places to shoot movies for interesting filmmakers because we're knocking down these walls. The internet and theatrical distribution are like making it so that we can see these movies more easily.
Yes. Certainly, we would never have been able to see as many international movies as we do now. And certainly, there's the theatrical element, like living in Chicago, like you certainly, like there is a couple of theaters that are going to play these movies. So if you're in a rural area of the country, you're probably not, but like something like It Was Just an Accident is available to buy and purchase right now, and you can watch it at home. It certainly is not the ideal experience for any of these movies, but those distribution outlets are much more available, and not to mention the streamers, which again, mixed bag, but certainly getting them on a streaming service can be a positive thing as well.
So moving on to my number four, we have your number 10. It was just an accident, a movie which I absolutely adored. As I said, like when we were talking about it, when it was at your number 10 position, like Jafar Panahi is a director who I've watched a lot of movies for. At this point, the kind of the narrative has become so all-consuming. Obviously, he was um, put under house arrest in the early 2010s. As a kind of a dissident of the state. I think he has served actual time in prison, and basically he was given a ban from filmmaking for a long time. And even with this ban on filmmaking, he proceeded to make kind of like four or five feature films that kind of like would get smuggled out the country and premiere at film festivals. So he made God, what was the he's made Taxi, No Bears, This Is Not a Film, Three Faces. All of these are like very interesting, almost like sort of documentary-ish. Like he is very much on camera. They're about the meta-ness of like making movies in this constraint. Like Taxi, I think, is maybe the most successful of these, which is he is basically driving around in a taxi and seemingly having improvisational interviews with the people that he meets, and then it slowly builds into kind of like more of a narrative film as the movie progresses, and it's what makes him so interesting is kind of like blurring the lines between the real and the filmic nature of kind of the stuff that he's doing. I've always been a bit more of his fan of the stuff he did before he was banned from filmmaking, where he was not the kind of central personality on screen. I really love like The Circle and Crimson Gold. The Circle is like a really fantastic movie from the early 2000s, which basically is like watching the knock-on effect of kind of like what one seeming thing would kind of like do in a situation. All of his art is inherently political, and I feel like all of it is culminated into It Was Just an Accident, which is um you can't say it's his most political work because all of his work has been political, but definitely his most um, the work that is translated best into traditional filmic language. Like this is a thriller in a way that so many of his other movies are not. This is a movie which doesn't go for the easy answers that ratchets the tension at all opportunities it can. That is working with an actual like ensemble cast. And obviously this movie has like been such a massive hit internationally that of course he has been put under arrest once again. I do believe he is not currently in Iran, but like basically when he goes back he will be under house arrest or under arrest once more. Because he's just a guy that is like so insistent on making art that criticizes the people in power and the transgressions that they're making. And whilst that sounds kind of like um uninteresting, that he continues to make fantastic movies whilst doing it. He is maybe our preeminent filmmaker of making entertaining and interesting movies that are inherently like political objects.
And I mean, I think he is the kind of director that we need. We need more of this. Like it just feels like there were a number of movies that tried to be political in the United States that I just think failed miserably. Um, and I think that this one was extremely successful. And I don't think this movie offers easy answers, but I think the final scene of dialogue still feels very cathartic, and it feels like a great endpoint for the movie. And I think you would agree. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but it really does feel like the ending conversation does provide a climax to the movie, even if it doesn't provide the answers.
I that's what I like about that one-two punch of the final dialogue scene is, as you say, cathartic in a way that makes sense for the movie, and then immediately you go into the final scene, which is maybe the best final scene of any movie of 2025.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
it's
it's a
absolutely
great ending.
it's a fantastic ending. I mean, obviously, like to get into Oscars politics, the fact that France are the ones who are submitting this movie this year, um, just says how broken the international body is. Where obviously you need to be nominated by the hope by a country involved in your production, but Iran will never ever ever put this movie forward as their submission for the Oscars for this year. And also gets down into, well, what if a country produces multiple great movies in a year? Who knows? But we live in a world where this movie exists, and it's fantastic. What's your number four,
Yeah.
Dran?
So yeah, I think I mean I can't speak highly enough of it was just an accident. Just really great. My number four was your number eight, right? Weapons.
Correct.
So I think that the magic of this movie is just when you sit down for the first time and you're like, what is this? And it unfolds. And I specifically remember, and I don't know why this clicked, but as soon as I saw Aiden Eidenreich's mustache and the way that he was dressed, I was like, oh, he's John C. Riley from Magnolia. That's what this movie is. Like, I don't know how that clicked, but it just did. And I was like, okay, I get what this movie is doing now. And I don't know if that's why I ended up liking it more on the first run, because I was like, maybe the fact that I got it and understood it. And I think I mean, that is a deep cut, right? But the magic of this movie is just in the discovery and like why are the kids running that way, and there's an answer to that I think is a satisfying payoff. Why is Benedict Wong, why do his eyes look like that, and there's a payoff to that. You get great Josh Brolin performance. You get, I mean, maybe one of my favorite scenes in any movie this year is Julia Garner being um stalked by, it's Paul Shear's wife. What is her name? When June Diane Raphael, when she comes in and pours all that vodka on her. I mean, that is just one of the great comedic scenes of the year, I would say. And it's a small role, and like it could very easily be just like this pointless throwaway, and it's not. I think she elevates the role, and again, the fact that she is a comedic actress, I think really kind of helps. And yeah, I don't know that I have a lot to add, but I think that this movie is able to say so much without getting into the specifics of, oh, is this a commentary on gun control or what have you. But yeah, I was very impressed, and I remember seeing the trailer and being like, this looks like it has a lot of potential, and especially knowing what I thought of Barbarian, because again, I thought Barbarian was good, but I thought this was so much better. And I mean, the kids running is iconic. I think that is one of the searing images of 2025. Is going to be the way that the kids are running, and Campbell's Soup. Also, what an advertisement for Campbell's Soup! What a great year for them, except for the fact that their CEO said that poor people are the ones that buy their soup. But this movie redeems Campbell's Soup, right?
I mean, this movie, there's just so many great lived-in moments across this entire movie. As you say, like it is Magnolia, but it's also like this non-linear nested structure. I do think like when you finally get to the Alden Ehrenreich bit is like just proof that he's a man that should be given more opportunities. Like between this and Oppenheimer, and it's a shame that Solo kind of like derailed his career. It felt like for a few years. Yeah, it's wickedly funny, incredibly well paced and well thought through. That can only make it stand up on repeat viewings, and yeah, I'm so excited to see what Zach Cregger can do, especially since I think his next movie is like Resident Evil, um, which I mean, obviously it's him, it's him leveling up, it's him leveling up kind of like to the right level and to the right kind of malleable IP.
I mean, we'll see. I think Resident Evil. I think it's something very specific, and obviously, it's not going to be that. But I hope it works because I find him to be really really exciting, and I don't want to see him just get stuck in IP land because it can sometimes lead to some very negative things. But yeah, the lived in part is really good to me too, like the fact that this town like feels it has a geography, and I know that's a stupid thing to say, but it feels like there is a logic to everything in terms of the movement and the driving and whatnot. And I think that's what Prager does really well too, because he did the same thing with the execution of the house in Barbarian. But I think it's the same in this movie as well. I mean, just everything feels very planned out and meticulous. And I don't want to spoil any of the movies, but I mean the payoff, the ending again is spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a great visual too. A great visual.
Oh yeah, like this movie created like some real iconic visuals. I think like a lot of the stuff that we've got in our kind of like top three, top four has created a lot of kind of um embedded visuals that will be iterated on for years to come. Should we cover my number three?
Yep.
So my number three for 2025 is Cleber Mendoza Filho's The Secret Agent, which is a Brazilian movie from this year set in 1977 during the military dictatorship. It is about a man who I don't like the title Secret Agent seems to promise a very different movie from what we get. Instead, this movie is about um resistance in sight of like the overwhelming odds where like everyone is seemingly out for you. This is a complex taut political thriller that's also an incredibly shaggy movie that is intersecting with so many different people and places and vibes and genres. It's funny, it's tragic, it's basically every single adjective I've used for other movies on this list so far this year. It is all anchored by a incredible performance by Wagner Moura, who has had like a kind of a bit of ascendant couple of years. Obviously, people might know him best from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where he voiced the wolf. He's in obviously Civil War. In kind of like a fantastic performance, but this really lets him shine in like a fascinatingly deep way. It is the kind of movie where I can see people bouncing off of it because it is like so shaggy. There are moments in this movie where seeing it in a packed audience full of Brazilian expats at the London Film Festival, like even they were kind of going like, I do not understand what they're doing right now. But it's playing off of all manner of things from cinema to political journalism to yeah, just incredible levels of depth to this movie. It's one I want to really sink into, one that kind of like completely blew me away when I saw it at the film festival. the director is someone who I've like always got along with. Like I loved Neighboring Sounds and Aquarius and Bacurau from a couple of years ago, which is far more genre filmmaking on his part with a fantastic kind of Udo Kier villainous performance. Which again he's one of those directors who like all of the things that he does are inherently political and commentary, but this feels like his magnum opus. It intersects with the documentary he made a couple of years ago called Pictures of Ghosts, which is about a lot of people who are disappeared from this time. And obviously, it feels like there's a lot of movies about this particular era of Brazilian politics that are ascending at the moment. I'm Still Here, obviously a huge success last year at the Academy Awards. Um, I think I prefer this one. It's a messier movie. It's not as clean, and it's maybe not as kind of like emotionally um reliant on its lead actor in the way that I'm Still Here is, but like I just was completely blown away by how fantastic this film was, particularly as it moves into its closing stretches and you see the ways in which the impact of 1977 are still being felt in kind of 2020's Brazil.
So I think part of what my frustration with this movie is that because going into this, I sort of knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that this was not going to be a rabble rousing, fast paced movie. I really like the opening scene. I think it's probably one of the best opening scenes that I saw this year. And just what it says, and the commentary, and the performances. Like the opening scene of this movie is spectacular.
Yeah,
And
with the car and the cigarettes and the dead body, it's
I
yeah.
mean, it is a home run of an opening scene. And it kind of feels like the movie never, in my view, it feels like the movie never really feels like it gets to that point again. And I really just disliked a lot of the way that the narrative was told. I really like the performances. I really like the lived-in nature of the set pieces. One of the things that I've been talking about with Brian on our podcast recently is like using decades as pastiche as opposed to like actually feeling like the place. Like Stranger Things and Welcome to Derry use their decades as pastiche as opposed to like feeling lived in. Like this feels like 1970s Brazil. And I think that's a good thing. Like I think this like everything just feels very tactile and I really appreciate that. I was consistently frustrated with how the narrative was told and how information was revealed. And I think that's why this movie didn't really work for me as nearly as much as it did for you. And it's unfortunate because I think there is a lot to say about this time period. And I do need one of the things I was like, okay, I'm going to see The Secret Agent and then I'm going to go back and watch I'm Still Here. And then I was not very enthusiastic about Secret Agent. So I was like, I'm gonna wait and give it some distance. I will probably watch it at some point, but yeah, this was a miss for me. And again, there's a lot of parts to this that I really liked in terms of the world building and in terms of the acting. And yeah, it just I was just very frustrated by the end of the movie. That's how I felt coming out of the theater.
That's fair. Yeah, I can see it. Again, like those narrative concessions, the ways in which, I mean, the movie literally says it. Like, I told you the story in the wrong order. The story is told in the wrong order, fundamentally in this movie, and things happen off screen that are kind of the things that you would expect the movie would depict in some way. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I think it is satisfying. It is cathartic when by the point it gets to the end, but fundamentally, it is not going for easy, palatable versions of like kind of what you expect from a political thriller called The Secret Agent. Fundamentally, like I do think that like the title belies a more straightforward narrative instead of what is in
Right,
reality far more of like an emotional wound to a country movie than a movie about a spy, which
right. And what I would say is like I don't specifically want easy answers because I don't think in this situation there are easy answers. But it was just an accident to me. Feels like I felt catharsis even if I didn't get answers per se, right? So I
Yes.
think that there's a way I would have liked to have seen some sort of catharsis, not necessarily like having easy answers. And I don't know what that even looks like with this movie, but I just felt very cold watching it. And that is not a feeling that I want to have, especially when it's 2 hours and 40 minutes too. I mean, this is definitely a time commitment. And I didn't even necessarily feel like it was too long. It felt like it just felt like there was something missing, and I can't necessarily put my finger on it, except I just felt a lack of catharsis at the end.
Fair enough.
All
What's your
right,
number three, Jerome?
my number three gives us a lot of answers and gives us a lot of catharsis. That would be Ryan Coogler's Sinners. You know, I have to say, after Black Panther 2, I was like, I really like Ryan Coogler. I really want him to get away from the MCU and do something on his own. You know, not with the shadow of Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing. You know, Black Panther 2 inevitably felt like it was going to come up short because of COVID, because of his passing, because of the general messiness of the MCU. So to see him direct this just made me so happy. To see Michael B. Jordan motivated in a dual role made me very happy. I love the fact that this movie takes its time to tell its story. This is a movie that's over 2 hours. The first hour is just the world building. I love the fact that he builds this world. And then it becomes an insane horror movie that I think delivers. I and I don't know if this is meant to be a direct shot at the MCU, or if he was just like, I'm going to do my version of post credit scene and it's going to be actually good, but an all time great post credit scene as well. This movie just delivers in all the ways you would want it to deliver. It really does take its time. And to me, this is a great genre exercise, and it earns those beats at the end. And again, you've got great performances by Haley Steinfeld. Um, I love Delroy Lindo and everything. Please get this man an Oscar nomination at some point. Like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but he really deserves it.
Yeah, they kind of fucked it up with him not getting the Da Five Bloods nomination, which
Correct.
should have been like a layup, especially in like as soft a year as that was. But I think people were just so anti Da Five Bloods seemingly in that year, even though I think it is like a quietly one of like Spike Lee's 10 best movies. Um, Probably at this point. Sinners is my number two. I think it's easy to just combine these conversations. I've got it one place higher than you, but like it's the next movie I'll be
Yeah.
talking about anyway. Um, yeah, this movie is incredible. It's a flat out masterpiece in so many ways. Like it feels like the kind of it feels like a swerve in Coogler's career, but also feels like the movie he's been building towards in terms of like all of his interests. Obviously, reteaming with Michael B. Jordan and kind of like taking some of the crew that he's built up over the years from the Black Panther movies and getting to make something which is contained but spreads itself across literal millennia of kind of like black culture across the world. It's yeah, like it is so thoughtful, and the ways in which I've seen people talk about kind of like the themes that this movie is going for, and kind of like make accusations against the movie of being kind of like racist to Irish people or anything like that. I'm like, no, that's like the entire concept of this movie, of like the cultural vampirism that this movie is like embedded into its central narrative. Yeah, this is the ultimate again. Like it feels like so much of our top 10 have been talking about like political filmmakers. This is the probably the perfect blending of highly energetic and entertaining blockbuster filmmaking, whilst also making kind of like salient political points that are not just government bad, but in reality are about the ways in which we view people purely through their contributions to culture.
And the system
And
is so bad that it filters down into people being bad and maintaining those systems. That's
yes,
what it's about.
yeah, it's a truly like fascinating, fantastic movie. The kind of like the central music performance at the heart of this movie is one of the probably 5, 10 best scenes of the century so far. It like a moment of seeing that in the IMAX, I was like levitating out of my seat. I haven't gone back for a second watch of this yet. I do need to. I have the steelbook sat on my shelf right now, and I'm like, oh God, when I at some
So
point
you're
I will
not going to
like.
fire this one up on the iPad and watch.
No, no, this movie, I don't have any long haul flights due due soon to watch like fantastic looking movies. God, I don't know. I'm trying to think like who I want to shout out because like Haley Steinfeld, like kind of even the idea of like her being cast with her kind of like racial background is so fascinating for like the position that she plays in the movie. Obviously, Jack O'Connell is fantastic as Rennick in this movie. Wumi Musaka, I think it may be kind of like the most quietly devastating performance in this, especially for what she represents in this. Where like, obviously this is a movie about black music and black culture, and Wumi Musaka playing both this maternal but also traditional values, kind of like magic and the ways in which they intersect with kind of like black culture and the ways in which they've been minimized or been extrapolated into white culture is equally fascinating. In the heart of this movie, and Miles Catton, you can't really get like
Given the
again.
roles that Rumi Masaku has played, you could do a really fascinating look at culture just in the characters that she's played. And no, I'm not talking about Deadpool versus Wolverine.
You're talking about Fantastic Beasts.
I mean, in a way, yes.
Yeah, like this movie is incredible. This is a calling card movie for 2025. I'm actually shocked you do not have it at number two because I feel like this my number one and number two feel like the two movies that are basically just we will look back in 20, 30 years and be like, yeah, those are the two cultural defining moments
I
of the
think we
year.
will. I think we will as well. And I mean, just looking at Coogler's career, let's just take a sidetrack here. Let's look at Ryan Coogler's 20, like just this century, what he's done. Fruitvale Station, I mean, arguably one of the best movies of that year and incredible, like, and it's still relevant today. You look at Creed, which is probably one of the best legacy sequels of all time, and just breathed new life into that franchise. And, there have been multiple movies just based off of that. And I mean, what it did for Stallone's career, and Stallone probably needs probably owes Coogler a lot for what he did, making Black Panther one of the best, if not the best superhero movie of all time. Black Panther 2, admittedly a mess, but like
And
ma-
Admiral, like to make a functioning movie out of what he was
that's what
left
I was
with.
going to say. It's like the fact that it is as good as it is probably a tribute to how good Ryan Coogler is.
Yeah, and the fact that like he's recently come out and said what the original plot of that movie is, and obviously like the name or DNA is there, but it was going to be far more of a movie about like a father and their child. Um, yeah, as you said, like it is admirable that he managed to make the movie he did, and I'm glad he got out of the Marvel ecosystem for a couple of years to go make something original and something that like he
Yeah.
will own at some point. Like he has negotiated that he will own the Sinners IP at some point in the next kind of like couple of decades,
Yeah, I think in
which
25 or I don't know if it's the IP. I know he will own the movie itself,
right.
which is really that's great. That's exactly what you want. And Ryan Coogler is pretty much somebody who has a lifetime pass for me. If he makes a movie, I will see it. I don't need to see a trailer. If Ryan Coogler's name is on it, I'm there
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
much.
hopeful. I mean, obviously he is the promise is the next movie he's making is Black Panther 3 with Denzel. Um
Which I'm
like
very
people
skeptical of Black Panther 3, but if Denzel's going to be in it, it maybe it is good. Like I
That's
don't
the thing is
know.
like I'm fascinated by what the pitch is going to be, whether or not they are like the rumblings that they're going to recast T'Challa, or what it is. But like fundamentally, like he obviously has an idea and has obviously been talking to people about it, and people are excited.
Here's
So
the thing: if Ryan Coogler has an idea and he's excited about it, I think he's done enough to earn the benefit of the doubt until he does something until he doesn't. Right?
yeah, absolutely.
For sure. I mean, he's great. So my number two is Life of Chuck, which I know Brian doesn't like, or which Ben does not like, and I will. I'm going to try to keep this conversation relatively short. I am very surprised that this ended up as my number two movie of the year. I don't know why this just hit me in the right place. I am a huge fan of Mike Flanagan, especially his TV work, and I think this is a movie that is very sentimental. And if you're not into that, then you are not going to be into this movie at all. This was quite a year for Stephen King adaptations. You had this, you had The Long Walk, you had Welcome to Derry. I feel like I'm missing one of his movie adaptations offhand. I
What
can't.
it was, The Monkey, The Long Walk, and this
Yeah,
were
you
the
also had The
three.
Monkey. I mean, it was what a
Oh,
year
and
for
The Running
Stephen
Man.
King. So yeah, I really like this movie. It is not going to be nominated for any Academy Awards. This was a huge box office bomb, and I don't know. I think this movie deserved a better fate in terms of box office. Again, I don't think it deserved to be an awards contender necessarily, but it's just really unfortunate to me that a movie like this was not able to find an audience. And I know it's streaming on Hulu and Disney Plus now, so perhaps it is going to find that audience. But I just really appreciated and really like this movie a lot. And this is another movie that it feels like it got like I've definitely seen people not like this movie, and I've seen this movie in top 10 lists. So this is another movie that feels very, very divisive.
I mean, the fascinating thing about this movie is obviously it premieres at TIFF last year, wins the TIFF Audience Award, which has kind of become one of the great precursors to the movie that wins this will get a Best Picture nomination, like without fail. And you look at the kind of the last 10, 15 years, it basically is like maybe it doesn't win, but it will be nominated. And then Neon holds this movie back, releases it in the middle of the summer across the world,
Which was a
and
terrible
it
idea.
and it just is like a complete nothing. As you say, like it's a box office bomb. It makes $19 million on an unreported budget. um it's far weirder, and I do not know how you cut a trailer for this thing. I will say it is a tonal register that I am not a fan either Mike Flanagan or Stephen King working in. um and I think it's a movie which gets worse each kind of like third of the movie that you go through. I think the first third of this movie is maybe the most exciting because it is, you have no idea what's going on,
It is definitely the best part. I would definitely agree with
and all of the Mike Flanagan regulars are kind of like showing up in that. And then the second act starts and it's dancing, and I'm a fan of dancing in movies, but I do not think that Mike Flanagan has the technical ability to present the dancing and the music like, especially when we're comparing it to a Sinners. I was just kind of like taken aback by how TV like the shooting of the dancing sequence, and then the movie very much settles into dancing as a central tenant, and the final act being the most maudlin and emotionally on its sleeve version of this movie that just kind of like turned me off by the end of it, and especially of the intriguing promise of the opening 30 minutes. I think there are like really good performances in this. I think Chiwetel Ejiofor and Karen Gillan are both like really, really good. I do think
I
Tommy
kind of want a whole
Hiddleston.
movie about them. I mean, not
Yes.
necessarily the characters, but please put those two in a movie again together.
Yes, absolutely. That thing is, I do think like Mike Flanagan is good with actors, but sadly, this is a movie where most of the runtime is contingent on child actors and Mark Hamill at his kind of most crotchety, like latter day Mark Hamill,
Mark
in a
Hamill's
way that,
definitely he has definitely gotten good at the crotchety because he
um,
also does. I believe he does it in SpongeBob, right?
yes, he does do it as well, and
Good
and
on
and
him.
again, and obviously, like you have Nick Offerman narration, but I kind of feel like the narration undercuts it because at points it is just literally reading the words of the book. I don't know, like I love Stephen King, I really like Mike Flanagan, but like just this felt like. Especially when I really love Doctor Sleep as well, like his Doctor Sleep adaptation is fantastic and kind of the perfect blend of the Stephen King canon of the books and the Stanley Kubrick canon of the film. Um, in really intelligent and interesting ways. And this was the first Mike Flanagan movie I've kind of been disappointed in.
I think that's totally fair. I was expecting this conversation to go about like this. So yeah, I think you and I certainly have different perspectives, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that our top 10 lists are not the same, because then I think this would be a very boring show. Speaking of boring, we have the same number one.
We have the
Ben,
same number one. It is the most shock number one. It is the movie that is probably going to win Best Picture in 3 months' time. It is the movie that everyone has
but
been
here's the
talking to
thing,
about.
Ben. I would argue that we do have the same number one. It is probably going to win Best Picture. Maybe it just is the Best Picture.
I think undeniably, one battle after another. It's like I don't know. Like I went into this year being like I'm not a Paul Thomas Anderson skeptic, but I'm definitely not like a guy who's like he is my guy. Like I am like
I,
all
I
over
think we're
Paul
on the
Thomas
same page
Anderson.
on this, because I rewatched some of his stuff beforehand. I was like, this is really good, but like I always walk away very cold from some of his movies. This was the complete opposite. Like I was literally into this from the opening scene.
Yeah, this is a I think like the kind of the main six actors in this movie are all putting in maybe career best performances. Like, I think
Yeah.
this is the best work that Leo's ever done. I think this is the best work that Sean Penn's ever done. I think this is the best work that Benicio del Toro's ever done. I think this is the best work that Regina Hall's ever done. Obviously, Tiana Taylor and Chase Infinity are like far less established, but I think they are like absolutely incredible performances
I
from
mean,
both
you've
of
also,
them.
and then you got Jim Downey coming off the bench too.
Yeah, Jim Downey coming in. Although I will say his interview with Conan about Jeffrey Epstein is maybe the best performance of his of the last 5 years.
I mean, it's the best meme of all time.
Jeff Epstein, the financier.
Oh, I mean, just Conan's reaction to that just kills me every time.
Um, yeah, like this is a scathing. Obviously, like there was so much like wonder of what this movie was going to be. Warner Brothers. You managed to like undercut me because I was going to say, and our number one movie of the year is obviously Minecraft. As we are talking four Warner Brothers movies in our top 10. Um,
I was
so
not
thank
gonna
you.
let. I'm glad I didn't let you do that, because, God damn you.
Um, Warner Brothers like giving Paul Thomas Anderson $200 million to make this kind of like epic scope of a movie. The idea that this movie was going to be based on Viceland, the Thomas Pynchon novel after his previous adaptation of Pynchon with Inherent Vice. And kind of like no one really knowing what this was going to be. And then when it came out and it was just a bolt of lightning. Like it is the entirety of the current American politic writ large in a movie, whilst also actually being about family and fatherhood and being worried about kind of like have you fucked up the world so much for like what you're going to give to future generations. Like I don't this is a filmmaker working at the top of his game. This is all of his collaborators working at the top of their game. um just from beginning to end, the best movie. Again, like we're talking tonal regulation, and we're talking about kind of like the ability to juggle tones and genres, and this movie is so funny and so tense and so dark at points, and all of it doesn't feel like it clashes. It's just a perfectly pitched, presented and produced film.
I don't know that it has the best opening scene, but it has an outstanding opening scene. It has a really good middle portion. It has a really good ending. Does it have the best ending? No, but top to bottom, it's so consistent. And this is a movie. It really feels like Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't know what his perspective on this is, but this feels so different from his previous work in a way. Like
it,
Licorice
it it
Pizza.
feels like a culmination, but not in a way that like you could draw a straight line from any of his previous movies to
No,
this one. It's just there are elements of all of his previous movies in this one. Like you
I
have
mean
the
the
fucked up
Los Angeles
romance.
feel, the Los Angeles of it all, and
Yeah, the fucked up
like
romances of like Punk Drunk Love and Phantom Fred, and the shaggy dog nature of like Magnolia and Boogie Nights. Like it's his career writ large.
because it's funny, because I mean I remember like Licorice Pizza I was very mixed on. Phantom Thread, very mixed on, and I know a lot of people really love Phantom Thread, but I was just again, that's a movie I walked away feeling very cold from. But this just, I mean, it blew me away. Like I was just because I saw some of the early reviews before I saw it because I saw it opening weekend, and I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And then again, the opening scene just it grabbed me right away, and I was into this movie the whole way through. One of the fastest 2 hours and 40-minute movies that I've ever seen. I was surprised and stunned that this did not feel 2 hours and 40 minutes in the best possible way. I mean, this is a movie that also, you have the Benicio del Toro meme, but it just, I mean, this movie really clicks in a way that I really, I mean, this wasn't a box office bomb. I think you look at the
No, this
international,
movie made kind of the exact amount of money it needed to make to not. No one could say that this movie failed.
right?
Like,
Because
would
domestically
be
it
lo
didn't do very well, but Leonardo DiCaprio's name carries a lot of cachet internationally, so it probably recouped most of its budget because of that.
Yeah, and this is going to be a movie that like already like it's been dropped to HBO Max over the Christmas period, and this will play in kind of like premium large format cinema screens for decades to come. They are going to reach lull points in so many years in the future and just re-release this movie into 70 millimeter IMAX or into VistaVision because it's just this movie just plays like gangbusters. Did you go see? How did you see this? Was this just a standard
I just saw
screening for
this
you?
in standard. It's really hard for me to see. Like it's just it can be it's kind of a pain in the ass to go downtown Chicago and see it in the premium formats, which
Yeah.
sucks. I mean, I would love. We do need a proper IMAX in Chicago. Like that's the funny thing is there is no proper IMAX, like a true IMAX in Chicago or the Chicagoland area.
That is baffling. I did this in VistaVision. I didn't do it in IMAX. But I did like we had like one of the three cinemas that was playing this in VistaVision in the world. It just looks incredible. Also there was a great like piano, like classic kind of like cinema organ performance before the movie. 10 out of 10, A plus, would go again. I didn't get go see it. I didn't go see it again in a premium format, but I did see it in Venice when I was in Venice briefly with my wife. And even that like a movie obviously it's in English and there were the Italian subtitles but like just again like played like gangbusters even in a foreign cinema with like everyone kind of like laughing along and getting the jokes, which I think is like a great sign for a movie like this because obviously it's so much is about like the American political identity in very specific ways, but the fact that it's playing internationally, I think speaks volumes about like the care and precision that this movie is doing. I think I'm gonna try and see it again in cinemas most likely. Like I've been told that like my 4K is not going to be coming till March. I'm gonna get an itch to see this movie probably before it
Oh my
wins
god.
Best Picture.
I would
I
love to
know
go see this in Sinners in premium format as a doubleheader. I would love to do that. I really do need to go. This and Sinners need to see this in premium format for sure. But
yeah.
what else
I'm
can we say
gonna.
about one battle after another? I mean,
I
to
want
me,
to. If you're going to nominate a performance for this movie, is it Penn or is it Del Toro?
it's Del Toro. I mean, and the thing is, like, I think Penn and DiCaprio are great, but I mean, Del Toro is just the way that he maneuvers around in the middle portion of this movie. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but you know what I'm specifically
Yeah,
referring
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Like that is just, I mean, that's great physical acting. That is great. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like I was never more impressed by Benicio del Toro than I was in that scene.
It's become like one that I've been watching like a lot of the critics boards and everything like that as the awards are being given out, and obviously critics are very different to the guilds. We do not know what the guilds are going to do at this point when we're recording this, but at the start of the season, it felt like Stellan Skarsgård's going to be the person to win Supporting Actor, and then the Sean Penn performance shows up and goes, "Oh, Sean Penn's going to win a second or third Oscar. I can't remember where he's at on the scoreboard." And it's just sneakily becoming everyone's like Benicio, 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 and
I
like
really hope so. And maybe this is a personal thing. I don't want Sean Penn to be on stage with an award. It's just embarrassing at this point.
it's he delivers one of the best villain performances of all time, I think, in this film. But I do think it would be very
And
similar
does
to
he
Adrian
understand
Brody.
that it's a villain performance, though?
I You'd have to ask him, but I do think it would be very similar to Adrian Brody winning last year for The Brutalist, where like literally he's on stage for like 10 seconds. Everyone's like, "How we should have given it to Timmy? Like we really, what did we do? Why have we given Adrian Brody a second Oscar?" Um,
I couldn't believe that they gave him the second Oscar. I just, given what he's done, like given what, like getting banned from SNL, what he did after he won his first Oscar, I can't believe they gave him the second.
and then we're gonna have to. I feel like we are reaching the point now with, and obviously neither of us have put Marty Supreme on our list, but I do think Marty Supreme is kind of like the third piece of the triple header of kind of like movies made for adults with like care and precision that are like an epic scope. Um,
Yeah,
with Sinners and
Marty
One Battle
Supreme
After
has
Another.
no chance of Best Picture. I mean, it might get nominated, but has no chance. It's Chalamet or nothing. I think with Marty Supreme, maybe
Absolutely.
Gwyneth Paltrow, but it's Chalamet.
Yeah, but yeah, this is a seismic totemic movie, and you could feel it in the opening weekend that like being there was like this is a movie that is going to go down in the history books and like will only go up in estimation. This is a
Yes.
like more than an Oppenheimer, more than a. I mean, I generally can't remember the last time that a movie came out and it felt like it kind of like shifted the cultural perception in the way that this movie did. Like maybe
I
a
mean,
Dark Knight.
everything everywhere all at once. You don't feel like that did it?
No, I think there's enough people who were like so put off by kind of the earnestness of everything ever all at once. I think it's a huge important movie, but I think in terms of like where its position will be in 10, 15 years, I can see a generation removed from where we are now being like, really? Everything all everywhere all at once? Whereas I think this movie is going to be mentioned in the same breath as like the great all-time Oscar winners and like in the same realm as kind of like a Parasite, or in the same realm as a um God, I'm now like blanking on like what movies actually like really fucking deserve to win Best Picture because there are so few of them.
Moonlight.
Um Moonlight, absolutely. But yeah, like I think this movie is like the complete triple threat of being like we're getting to award a generational talent at the exact right moment. Um and like
I
it
mean, Paul
like
Thomas
obviously
Anderson better win 3 or 4 Oscars. That's
yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean,
I mean,
the only question comes down to is there going to be a split between picture and director? Like, there is a chance that he loses director to Coogler, and obviously, no one would be disappointed in that because they're two
well, I
generational
mean,
talents.
the
But
wrong
like,
people would be disappointed in that, but that's neither here nor there.
but that's the thing is like we're getting to a point where I'm like, there is the top level of movies of 2025 are so superlative that they can't really go wrong in the way, and the award season is shaping up in a way where like they really can't go wrong, and if they go wrong they fucked up so massively. um but yeah, like a year with One Battle After Another and Sinners is a great year for movies.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I wanted to just cover is like this is a movie that is political, but I think it's so much more successful than I'm thinking about Eddington, which I know you're pretty high on, and
I'm
I
high on editing, and I know you really disliked it.
I hated Eddington with the passion of a thousand suns.
Eddington to me I
I
think
absolutely hated it.
was a pricklier and maybe too intellectual about its politics than it needed to be. Because I've had this conversation about kind of like what do the Antifa like assassins gang actually mean at the heart of that movie and stuff. And yeah, like it's a very controversial movie to say the least.
I mean, it was amateur hour. That's literally what it felt like to me. I cannot believe how much I hated it. Is it better than Minecraft? Technically, yes. Did I hate Eddington more than Minecraft? Yes.
I didn't.
That's
Minecraft is boring, and the only
and to
upside
be
to it is that
clear,
like,
Minecraft is terrible. I don't want to defend that movie, but
but you've decided to. You've hung your petard on defending Minecraft. Jerome Cusson, number one Minecraft fan, 2025. You heard
that
it
is
here
not true
first.
at all. God, I hated Eddington, and After the Hunt as well. I think this movie is so much more successful than those because I think it really focuses on the characters and it really invests you in them, and it really shows like, okay, you're going to be this radical political person, but there's real damage to that, and I don't think enough movies cover that element of it. Like, yes, it's great to be noble, it's great to do these things and to be politically active, but it does real damage. I mean, I can't tell you how many black activists die prematurely. And I'm not talking about assassinations. I'm talking about cancer. I'm talking about heart attacks. I'm talking about like the physical toll that it takes on people and burns them out. And I think you get a great representation of that. And, maybe with a black director, we get an even better perspective because I think one of the legitimate critiques is the way that it treats black women. I don't think it's bad, but certainly I understand where the criticisms are coming from, given that it's a white director.
Yeah, I do wonder if this exact movie had been made by a black female director, whether or not there would be this leveling of complaint against it. I genuinely don't know. That is a kind of
It's a
a
question that can't
hypothetical.
be answered because they
It's
don't.
a que-
A what black female director is going to get a $200 million budget and this cast too?
yes,
So I
but
mean, I this to me is a masterpiece. This is going to be one of the best movies of the century, and it should win. It should win. It should not just win Best Picture. This is the kind of movie, and I know the Oscars they really love to like split it up. This is a movie. This and Sinners. These should both win 5 to 6 awards.
yeah, unquestionably, like no questions there that these movies deserve as much. But then it's just they're going to be
Because these
competing
are
for the they're
two
going to be
in terms. These are two of the these movies. Two of them clearly stand out above the rest in terms of award contention.
yeah, but they're going to be competing for the same things, even down to like I think all of both of them have maybe not for lead actress for Sinners, but I do think that they've got like enough acting strength behind them that you could give any one of them these awards.
Well, it's funny because lead actress is not going to. I mean, Sinners. I don't know that we're going to get a lead actress nomination for either One Battle or Sinners.
I think Chase makes it into a lead actress for one battle.
Are they going to put her in supporting or lead?
No, no, Chase is going for lead, and then
Good.
Tiana Taylor and Regina Hall are going for supporting.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense because I know sometimes they try to gimmick that, but yes, I mean, I think that's appropriate.
They
I
they
mean, it
have
feels that
correctly said that Chase Infinity should go for lead actress. Like that was announced
yes.
fairly early
I
on
mean, the
this
thing is
season.
though, I think Rose Byrne is going to win for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
That is the one where like, I think that's again another case of if she gets into the five, I think it's probable that she wins. Like it's a performance that like getting into the five is the battle, and then once she's being seen by
Yeah.
people, it becomes like an inevitable, really at that point.
All right, so we have done our top 10. Are there any honorable mentions we have not mentioned that you would like to discuss?
Oh, God, what have I got from my film list that I really liked in 2025? I loved Sorry Baby. I think that movie's fantastic.
Sorry, Baby is great. Yep.
Sorry Baby, Mighty Supreme, which we shouted out just then. Kelly Reichardt's The Mastermind is fantastic. Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag. A couple of odds and ends that probably haven't had wider releases at the moment. Lav Diaz's Magellan is a fantastic view of the kind of the Spanish, sorry, Portuguese uh, impact that they've had on kind of like various Asian cultures over the years. I think it's a movie about being colonized from the perspective of the colonized. A movie about colonizers from the perspective of the colonized is how I would describe Magellan, and it looks fantastic. And is the shortest movie that Lav Diaz has ever made. And then Mirrors number three, from Christian Petzold, who is maybe like a German workhorse guy who I absolutely adore. He makes these very kind of like interesting and introspective movies that like kind of like jump around a lot of places. But those are a couple of bits and pieces that really jumped out to me from 2025. How about you?
Companion, which came out all the way back in January, and it was still ended up being number 14 on my list. Really good one. Friendship, a great year for Tim Robinson, and a really good comedy. Warfare, which I have very conflicting feelings on with the ending, but I mean, it's a spectacular war movie. Let's see. Predator Badlands is also, I would consider, an honorable mention. Just a really fun, entertaining Saturday morning cartoon. Frankenstein, I really liked it. F1 is a great in theater experience. I don't know that I can watch it at home and have the same appreciation, but in theaters, it was a great, great time. So those are some of my notable. And Wake Up Dead Man, which was number 11. More great Benoit Blanc. Please give me more Benoit Blanc. Let's release them in theaters, please.
Absolutely. Hopefully, now that Netflix is, I think that Ryan Johnson's done with Netflix at this point, so maybe Knives Out 4 will be back to a Lionsgate or something to release.
I mean, unless Netflix offers him a lot of money.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, if you what did they give him $400 million for
It was a
two?
lot of money to make two movies, and I think those movies have both been successful. Um, they would have been more successful if they released in cinemas, though. Um,
Of course, yes. Anything else that you want to discuss here on this top 10? I mean, what a great year for movies, I would say. I mean, the fact that I feel like we do have a definitive blockbuster number one, I think says a lot. There was some disagreement on our list, but I mean, we definitely had a lot of the same movies: Sinners, Weapons, Sentimental Value, One Battle After Another.
yeah, I think we had a lot of crossover, and all the ones that really the only thing we disagreed on massively was probably Life of Chuck, because even with your you still liked, I still liked Train Dreams, you still liked Secret Agent enough.
I think we
Um,
respect those. I think we respect those movies, even if we don't
yes,
necessarily like them. And I did
yes.
see Secret Agent in a movie theater on a big screen. I did not watch it on my iPad, so I feel like I come out a little bit ahead there.
Absolutely.
I will never. You will. I will never let you forget. If Train Dreams comes to a theater, you better go and see it in the goddamn theater.
You can set up alerts on your phone to let you know when Train Dreams comes to London cinemas, something which I'm sure you you want to have alerts for.
I'll be like Batista in Glass Onion and set Google alerts for movies.
Absolutely.
All right, Ben. What else are you working on these days?
God, we've just wrapped up a new volume of There Will Be Movies, which I plugged in the middle of this episode. We've just done 50 movies from 2020 to 2024. So please go listen to that where podcasts are released. The name of the podcast is There Will Be Movies. Yeah, it was a really fun little mini series. I think we're just taking a little bit of a break, and then we'll reconvene at some point in 2026. We're not sure what the project will be at this point, but both Matt and I are agreed that it's like whatever. We will find something that sounds right to
Do,
both of
do we
us.
need
Like
to
that,
update our Marvel list? Do we want to go through that exercise again?
I think at this point you wait until Secret Wars comes out. We need to let the dust settle on that. It's been a long time, and there's just so much shit going around on that one. And I don't think 2026 is the right time for it, just because I feel like Doomsday might be like the biggest misfire that they've ever done, but it also might be absolutely fantastic. Because I don't know, like we'll see. I genuinely cannot
I
tell, but
am
I'm
extremely
not
skeptical
excited.
at this point. I
Yeah.
am the opposite of excited. I am just, oh, I have so many feelings, but I'm sure I'll share them. At some point, Brian and I will be continuing our podcast in 2026. We will be doing a Joe Dante month in January. We're going to be discussing some Joe Dante projects, so that will be very exciting. In the month of December, we discussed a number of holiday movies, including Carol, as well as Happiest Season, among others. Please subscribe to YouTube and like us as well. Click the bell icon for notifications. Leave reviews on Apple and Spotify. Get those algorithms going. That's all I got for Ben. I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again soon.
Oh, all good.
That was a very